This is English shorthand dictation number 110 and the dictation speed is 160 words per minute. Ready? Start. Before you discuss the resolution, let me place before you one or two things. I want you to understand two things very clearly and to consider them from the same point of view from which I am placing them before you. I ask you to consider it from my point of view, because if you approve of it, you will be obliged to carry out all I say. It will be a great responsibility. There are people who ask me whether I am the same man that I was in the earlier years or whether there has been any change in me. You are right in asking that question. Let me, however, hasten to assure that I am the same Gandhi as I was in the earlier years. I have not changed in any fundamental respect. I attach the same importance to non-violence that I did then. If at all, my emphasis on it has grown stronger. There is no real contradiction between the present resolution and my previous writings and speeches. Occasions like the present do not occur in everyday life, but rarely in anybody's life. I want you to know and feel that there is nothing but purest non-violence in all that I am saying and doing today. Non-violence is the key. The draft resolution of the working committee is based on non-violence. The contemplated struggle similarly has its roots in non-violence. If therefore there is any among you who has lost faith in non-violence or is tired of it, let him not vote for this resolution. Let me explain my position clearly. God has granted to me a priceless gift in the weapon of non-violence. I and my non-violence are on our path today. If in the present crisis, when the earth is being burnt by the flames of violence and crying for release, I failed to make use of the God-given talent, God will not forgive me, and I shall be judged unworthy of the great gift. I must act now. I may not hesitate and merely look on when Russia and China are threatened. Ours is not a drive for power, but purely a non-violent fight for India's independence. In a non-violent struggle, a successful general has been often known to effect a military coup and to set up a dictatorship. But under the Congress scheme of things, essentially non-violence as it is, there can be no room for dictatorship. A non-violent soldier of freedom will desire nothing for himself. He fights only for the freedom of his country. The Congress is unconcerned as to who will rule when freedom is attained. The power, when it comes, will belong to the people of India, and it will be for them to decide to whom to place in the seat of power. Maybe that the reins will be placed in the hands of the Parsis, for instance, as I would love to see happen, or they may be handed to some others whose names are not heard in the Congress party. It will not be for you, then, to object saying that this community is microscopic or that party did not play its due part in the freedom struggle. Why should it have all the power? Ever since its inception, the Congress has kept itself meticulously free of the communal taint. It has thought always in terms of the whole nation and has acted accordingly. I know how imperfect our non-violence is and how far away we are still from the ideal. But in non-violence there is no final failure or defeat. I have faith, therefore, that if in spite of our shortcomings the big thing does happen, it will be because God wanted to help us by crowning with success our silent, unremitting struggle for the last 20 years. I believe that in the history of the world there has not been a more genuinely democratic struggle for freedom than ours. I read about French Revolution while I was in prison, and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru told me something about the Russian Revolution. But it is my conviction that in as much as these struggles were fought with the weapon of violence, they failed to realize the democratic ideal. In the democracy which I have envisaged, a democracy established by non-violence, there will be equal freedom for all. Everybody will be his own master. It is to join a struggle for such democracy that I invite you today. Once you realize this, you will forget the difference between the different communities and think of yourselves as Indians only, engaged in the common struggle for independence. Then there is the question of your attitude towards the British. I have noticed that there is hatred towards the British among the people. The people say they are disgusted with their behavior. The people make no distinction between British imperialism and the British people. To them, the two are one. This hatred would even make them welcome the Japanese. It is most dangerous. It means that they will exchange one slavery for another. We must get rid of this feeling. Our quarrel is not with the British people. We fight their imperialism. The proposal for the withdrawal of British power did not come out of anger. It came to enable India to play its due part at the present critical juncture. It is not a happy position for a big country like India to be merely helping with money and material obtained willy-nilly from her while the United Nations are conducting the war. We cannot evoke the true spirit of sacrifice and valor so long as we are not free. I know the British government will not be able to deny freedom to us when we have made enough self-sacrifice. We must therefore rise above hatred. Speaking for myself, I can say that I have never felt any hatred. As a matter of fact, I feel myself to be a greater friend of the British now than ever before. One reason is that they are today in distress. My very friendship, therefore, demands that I should try to save them from their mistakes. As I view the situation, they are on the brink of a ditch. It therefore becomes my duty to warn them of their danger, even though it may, for the time being, anger them to the point of cutting off the friendly hand that is stretched out to help them. People may laugh, nevertheless. That is my claim. At a time when I may have to launch the biggest struggle of my life, I may not hold hatred against anybody. Freedom and power bring responsibility. The responsibility rests upon this assembly with a sovereign body representing the independent people of India. Before the birth of freedom, we have endured all the pains of labor, and our hearts are heavy with the memory of this sorrow. Some of those pains continue even now. Nevertheless, the past is over, and it is the future that is before us now. That future is not one of ease or resting, but of continuous striving, so that we may fulfill the pledges we have so often taken and the one we shall take today. The service of India means the service of the millions who suffer. It means the ending of poverty and ignorance and disease and inequality of opportunity. The ambition of the greatest man of our generation has been to wipe every tear from every eye. That may be beyond us. But so long as there are tears and suffering, so long as our work is not over, we shall continue to tread our path. So we have to labor and to work hard to give reality to our dreams. Those dreams are not only for India, but they are also for the world, because all the nations and people are too closely joined together today for any one of them to imagine that it can live apart. Peace cannot be divided. So is freedom. So is prosperity, and so also is disaster in this one world that can no longer be split into isolated fragments. To the people of India, whose representatives we are, we make an appeal to join us with faith and confidence in this great adventure. This is no time for petty and destructive criticism, no time for ill will or blaming others. We have to build the noble mansion of free India where all her children may live. The day we have been waiting for has come, and India stands up again after long slumber and struggle. The past follows us for some time in some measure, and we have to do much before we redeem the pledges we have so often taken. Yet the turning point is behind us, and history begins afresh for us. That will be the history which we shall live and act, and others will write about. It is a fateful moment for us in India, for all Asia, and for the world. A new star rises. It is the star of freedom in the East. A new hope comes. A vision is realized.